we're discussing this important piece of human rights legislation on the 4th anniversary of the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. 4 years ago at this time, in my household, we were celebrating the arrival of my now 4-year-old son, Augustin. 3 days after his birth, we began to see the terrible images and hear stories of carnage, death, and widespread destruction. The joy we felt at the birth of a new child contrasted sharply with the agony of fathers and mothers in Ukraine who had children taken away from them in the prime of life. This brutal war was the choice of one man, Vladimir Putin, a choice that he made with willful disregard for the lives of the Ukrainian people and the Russian people alike. While welcoming a new child into my family, I thought about the many parents who will never see their children again because of that evil decision. I also think about the many Ukrainian parents whose children have been abducted from occupied territories by the Russian government. The reality of systematic child abduction by the occupiers underlines that this war of aggression is not just about stealing territory, it is about stealing people. It is about ripping children from their parents and severing their filial connection to their people and their heritage. In response to these events, we must do everything we can to strengthen Ukraine's position. To strengthen Ukraine's position for fighting and to strengthen Ukraine's position for negotiating. These objectives are one and the same. Whether Ukraine is defending itself on the battlefield or at the negotiating table, a stronger Ukraine will lead to a more just outcome. A stronger Ukraine will force Russia to stop making absurd maximalist demands and to actually get serious about ending the war. Russia chose this war. They can choose to end it. Ukrainian strength will ultimately force that change of position. As part of supporting Ukraine, Canada must do more to close sanction loopholes and prevent the Russian government from using international exchange to fuel its aggressive war. I therefore repeat my long-standing call on the government to close the sanctions waivers on Russian titanium that they created and to put more pressure on Russia's strategic partners around the world, China and India, among others. The Canadian government has repeatedly granted sanction waivers that have assisted the Russian government and the Russian army. In particular, again, the titanium sanction waivers Liberals gave to Russia must be removed right away. Now, from time to time, I hear questions or feedback from people about the amount of money that the Ukraine war is costing. It is my view, Speaker, that strong support for Ukraine and tough sanctioning of the aggressor right from the outset, indeed immediately after the initial invasion began in 2014, would have prevented this war or led to a faster Ukrainian victory. It is particularly true in this case that early, decisive support plays critical dividends. And it remains true that principled, strong, supportive engagement early on strengthens our strategic position and spares us costs down the line. The cost of investing in security is outweighed by the cost of not investing in security. Although it would clearly have been better if this war had never started, the fact that Russia's basic military and strategic weakness has now been exposed, and the fact that a substantial portion of Russia's fighting capacity has been destroyed, these things underline the strategic benefits to the West of past and ongoing military support for Ukraine. In the midst of these events, it astonishes me that some people still make the absurd claim that victory for Ukraine is impossible. It is astonishing because when I think back to where we were 4 years ago, when I would wake up with the baby and anxiously check my phone to see if Kyiv had fallen, and how from those dark early days when it looked as though Ukraine's government might collapse and immediately be replaced by a puppet regime and that would rule the whole country, that we have instead come to this present situation, where parts of eastern Ukraine remain occupied but with little territorial change, and Russia continues to sustain far more casualties than the Ukrainians do. The war is terrible, but what Ukraine has achieved and preserved is also incredible. Imagine what would yet be possible if the West were a little bit more serious about giving Ukraine every tool it requires to fight and succeed. Small countries with sufficient economic and military support and with the superior will to fight can and do win wars and change the course of history. Ukraine can win, Ukraine must win, and Ukraine will win. My support and our conservative support for the Ukrainian people will be unrelenting until victory is achieved, and we call for the policies that will allow that victory to be achieved as quickly as possible.